Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the Paws Up podcast. This is episode 17 of the show. My goodness, we are 17 episodes in. We're getting one step closer to that special episode 20, Kevin. That's going to be a crazy milestone. But for now, thank you to everybody who is watching on the Paws Up podcast Twitter or the Lemon City Live YouTube and Facebook channels. We are joined today with one of my good friends that I've known for quite a bit. He is a writer and a photographer for the Panther Now Sports section. This is Adrian Valdivia. How are you doing, Adrian?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you?
We are doing great. We are what is it now? We're less than a week away from the FIU football spring game this Saturday. Obviously, a very fun time for students, fans, and alumni to see some football action before obviously the big hiatus heading into August and September when college football kicks into gear. So, again, great to have you on, Adrian, and let's get right into it. First things first, Mr. Adrian, writer and photographer for Panther Now. Talk to us a bit. I'll get the stage open for you to talk your talk with Panther Now. How is the section doing? What have you been doing as of late? And
It's been good so far. To be honest, this semester I haven't really worked a ton with them like I did in previous semesters, but I've still been trying to, do what I can, whether it's just like simple photography stuff or just like reaching out to whoever's a part of it now. But it's been good. I mean, I decided to try to do photography last semester, and I really enjoyed it. I went to every football game, home game, and I got a lot of photos for the team and just for the articles, and also the soccer game. I unfortunately I didn't go to a lot of the games at the beginning of the season, but near the end of the season when they were in the middle of conference play and everything, I went to those games, and it was just really fun, like experiencing new things like that with photography and just like a whole new sport of soccer. So I mean, I really enjoyed that. So that's why I kind of wanted to try to get into that. But that's the writing, like as you know, Jake, I joined when you were still sports
yeah.
director. So like thank you for that, and that was really fun.
Well,
And then
thank you for joining,
yeah,
Adrian. So for those who don't know, it's no secret I was the director of sports at Panther Now for a couple of years before I graduated last year, and Adrian was one of the top writers, the upper echelon, along with of course our good friends Jonathan Mayer and Liam Rooney, who were all beat writers of specific sports. Adrian, you were pretty much the basketball beat writer. That was
yeah,
what you were known for, but you also obviously also did some baseball and some football as well. So that's super cool to see, and you're doing FIU Athletics work as well, like you said, providing some photos as well. That's super cool. I got to ask, writing or photography? What's your number one right now?
I really enjoy writing. I've always enjoyed it. Hence why
Mm-hmm.
I was like, let me try to be a communications major. But photography is just, I feel like I could do my own thing with writing, but
Mm-hmm.
with photography, there's just so much you could do. Like there's a
Yeah.
one celebration that I could get a picture of, or like a cool like a sack or this, or like a goal or a dunk. Like whereas with words, it's just like
Mm-hmm.
they dunked the ball versus like a cool picture that could be on the thumbnail of an article.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and even here at Lemon City, something we always try to get done here is obviously you have to have a solid article that describes the game as much as possible. You need a good photo to back that up, and whether it's our man JC Ruiz working on the photos or someone else, or we just get the photos from the teams. Yeah, a good photo with a good article definitely matters. So, alrighty, guys, before we get to spring football, there was something a bit interesting that happened earlier today that I'd like to talk about because it was something special for FIU Athletics. It was the Rory Awards. Now, what the Rory Awards are, it's an annual award show that's just based on all of FIU Athletics, a bunch of categories and a bunch of winners. Because I think there were two winners per category, like throughout the board. So I'd like to talk about some of the names there were, and see if we have any hot takes or if we have any agreements or disagreements for who was selected. But first off, shout out to FIU Athletics. 89 student athletes have and are scheduled to graduate during the upcoming fall, spring, and summer semesters. So that's very cool. And across the board, student athletes posted a combined 3.39 GPA, and there were 261 student athletes that posted a GPA of 3.0 or higher. So that's really cool. Shout out to FIU Athletics, putting in the work both on and off the field. And yeah, let's get into it. So there was a team MVP for every sport at FIU, and we'll go over most of them and see whether we agree or disagree with who was selected. So let's start off with football, and the team MVP was Flex Joseph. And it's a bit ironic, the news we heard today.
Yeah, we'll talk about Flex Joseph, the injury later.
Yeah, a bad injury for Flex Joseph, ACL, more than likely out for the season. But let's not focus on that now. Let's talk about the fact that he was chosen as the MVP for football for last year. How are we feeling on this? Is it an obvious no-brainer, or do you have somebody else in mind who you think should have taken the spot?
No, this can't get as obvious as it is. I mean, Flex was the best offensive piece that FIU had last season. It couldn't have been more obvious than that. You couldn't be happier for him. And
yeah,
just pulling up. Let's see. Should come up any minute. So there it is. There it is. The award, team MVP, Flex. He killed it, man. I think it was 5-7 touchdowns, over 500 yards rushing. I mean, and then Jake and Adrian, if he had a healthy offensive line, I think this guy definitely could have even broken out for more yardage and definitely was probably the impact player. And it really sucks he's injured because he probably projected as your top offensive weapon entering this season.
Where are my manners? There we go. Okay. Got my microphone right here. But yeah, I think you could make a case for Tyrese, but at the same time, that was kind of an off year for Tyrese. And
no, it was not a good year for Tyrese.
Why he moved. Yeah. So I'll say that I'll agree with that. I think Flex Joseph was a workhorse, and at times where the offense struggled to move the ball in some of those horrific games for FIU that season, Flex still found a rhythm. And I'd say definite congrats to Flex, and he definitely deserved that. Adrian, what do you say?
Yeah.
I mean, no disagreements from me, to be honest. Like you said, Tyrese had a great year, and like there was other players that performed very well too, but unfortunately they left the program. So
yeah,
players that stayed in the program, this is well deserving for him. I mean, unfortunately, the injury and everything is going to set him back a bit, but I mean, whoever is going to be the next RB1 or the RB2, like just those players that are coming up now, he's going to be like a great role model for them, even if he's not able to play.
Yeah, he can still do a lot of work even without actually playing the game, right? Moving on now, let's go to a different sport. And it's funny you talked about the fact that
there's a couple football awards, Jake. There's a couple.
Yeah. We're gonna get into those real quick.
We're gonna get into those. Okay, I already had one lined up ready to go.
Yeah. Let's talk about the MVP. So that was the team MVP for football. Now, Adrian, you had mentioned the fact that because he stayed, right? Or if Tyrese had stayed, maybe he'd be eligible for the award. Well, isn't it ironic that the team MVP for men's basketball was Denver Jones?
That is a bit ironic, but the thing is, I understand like why they would want to give these awards to some players, even if they did leave. But I don't know, like just when it comes to basketball, Denver Jones just had everything. Like he had the sportsmanship. He had like the every player on the team is just super nice, and we've talked to them after the games and everything.
Yeah.
Everyone's super charismatic and like uplifting of the other teammates. But I mean, Denver, when you look at it from like a perspective of when I first started writing was last season, not this past one, but the one before, and he was just a freshman. So talking to him and then seeing him come into like, he was kind of like the number one guy, I'd say, this season.
Oh yeah,
he left, so he had to kind of take that role on his own as a sophomore or like a freshman transitioning to a sophomore. He's only like 19, so it's it's to see someone like that play such a big role in the team. Even if he did leave, I don't know who else would have been able to really like deserve it as much as Denver did.
Yeah, when just the statistics don't lie and the awards he got don't lie. What he was like, he was Conference USA, or no, that was Arturo Dean. My mistake. But Denver Jones still.
Denver was a part of the Conference USA.
Yeah, he was the first team all pro,
Yeah.
or however it goes. Yeah.
And,
I was
I'll
thinking
say
of
this.
freshman of the week, and that was Dean.
Dean also got an
yeah.
award.
Yeah, he got a couple of awards.
Yeah,
But-
so just very quick with Denver, when you need someone in the clutch, Denver was that guy. We saw it in so many games where Denver Jones was the guy that late in the game, he's the one who's the ball is being fed to. Arturo Dean just getting those, just racking up assists, giving those to Dean, getting those shots, and Dean also setting up his big man. When you saw Mohamed Sonogo in the paint, you knew Dean was going to either lob it up to him or Dean's taking it himself. But Dean also got Denver got everyone involved in the offense. He got himself involved very well, and man, this is such a well-deserved award, and I wish him the best in Auburn. And
yeah,
I mean, many said it. FIU may not have deserved Denver Jones, and because he's so damn good. He's going to kill it in Auburn now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's now transition from men's basketball to baseball, and again, I think this is a big no-brainer. It's Alex Sanchez taking on the team MVP for baseball, and I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. There were not a lot of players in the baseball team last season that stood out like on a national level last season. Of course, that was the final year of Marvel Melendez during his time at FIU, but Alex Sanchez was still consistently one of the big hitters on offense. Even when the team was in a slump, Alex Sanchez was still the one that was hitting dingers, right? He was that guy. And I personally think that you could maybe throw in Girardi into the mix. But Alex Sanchez, I think is a good call for team MVP for baseball.
Are they talking about last season or this year?
Yeah, last season. This is all for last year. This isn't the current season. This is all for the 2022. Right?
Yeah,
so
no, I think it's 2023 because
it might be just because
was Denver the best player last year? No matter what,
I feel like we might have had Tevin if it was that case.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Let me read the fine print here. Okay.
But then again, they're still in the middle of the season, so for baseball.
FIU Athletics celebrated the top performers of 2022/23.
So this is with FIU baseball, Sanchez has been out with injury. So as I spoke to him after he earned the award, he's super happy about it, very blessed. He said, I mean, you can't be much more happier for this guy, one of the hardest working guys out there. But there are definitely some other candidates who deserve this same award. You can mention Ryan Guida, DH Ryan Guida, who's been killing it, just an absolute slugger. You have then Mike Rosario, who was the University of Miami transfer, Henry Wallen, Angel Tiburcio, who's looked really good on the mound this year for FIU. There's definitely a lot of names, but the one that's been the hottest is Alex Sanchez. Most consistent has been Alex Sanchez. Dante Girardi also is another one who deserved the award. He had like a 12-game hitting streak. He's looked good so far. I mean, Ruben Carpio, Adrian Figueroa. This FIU baseball team is a fun team to watch. But if you're looking for consistency, Alex Sanchez was that, that's why I believe he won this award.
Yeah, I agree. And moving on now, I'd like to go through one more major spotlight one, and it's men's soccer. And the team MVP for that was Stephen. It was Stephen Afrifa. And again, I agree with the pick. The men's soccer team had pretty much so many all-stars in it that you could just take a random player from the roster and put him as team MVP, and I wouldn't be mad about it. But yeah, Stephen Afrifa, he was, I believe Afrifa was drafted in the MLS, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, he was a top 10.
Yeah, he had, I believe it was Kansas City. So yeah, Sporting Kansas City. He had just a phenomenal year. What can I say? And He was named United Soccer Coach's second team All-America for his talent on the pitch. And again, a big no-brainer. I'm actually liking all these MVP picks. I know Tyler Hogan had a great year as well at the keeper position, but I feel like Steven was a great leader for the team, and he was, again, one of the reasons why they got as far as they did. So good pick there. I agree with it.
Yeah. I'll let Adrian talk about this one.
I mean, yeah, like I said, I wasn't really huge in the soccer scene until the second half of the season. But I mean, like you said, Jake, every player on that team was just like every game you would see, especially like for the conference championship, when everybody was getting their own little awards. Every player was just so well deserving of it. Like even if they didn't score a goal or get an assist, like just the communication and everything that the team had, it was a great team. So like you said, I mean, he was the MVP, yeah, and I don't know who got the awards, but in their eyes, like he was the main guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, everybody was just amazing on that team. Like that team was something special.
Yeah. So let's go into some team specific awards real quick. So the FIU football won the award for most improved team overall. And I think it's a good pick. And again, we've talked about this quite a bit on the show. But the fact that FIU football went from a 1-11 team to what was it? It was 4-8 is absolutely insane considering how rock bottom the team was during the end of Butch Davis's tenure, and how Mike McIntyre had a brand new coaching staff, almost a brand new group of players entirely, and still put up 4 very solid wins. Yeah, I agree with it. It's a great call to put the football as the most improved team. I know some people say, but swimming or not swimming. Well, swimming has been great. Swimming and men's soccer have been the consistent teams. Well, that's the thing. It's consistently. They've been consistently great. The most improved award is for the team that has done a complete 180 from their last season to now, and the soccer team has back-to-back conference championships and NCAA tournament appearances. They won a bunch of awards, as I'm sure you could have guessed. But yeah, football being most improved, I agree, and I hope we get to see football being most improved again, from going 4-8 to 6-6 or something crazy like that. If they can get into a bowl game this season, then I wouldn't be shocked if they were the most improved team yet again.
Yeah. I mean, even if they don't, just them. I just remember like going into the coach's press conference after they won their second game, which I believe was at Charlotte, if I'm not mistaken. And then we were all like making jokes like, oh, they doubled their win percentage from 1 win to 2 wins. And we're like, that's huge. Like it's huge that they just, got that second win, something that was like we were inching at in that first of the season last season. And then when they got another win and then another win, it was just like growing and growing. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, yeah, they got 4 wins, but I mean, 4 wins is a lot. Like that's 3 more wins than they got last season, and then more wins from the season prior. So it's like they improved a lot, and they're only going to keep improving from here on out, like with the players they've been bringing in and the new coaches and everything. I mean, I'm excited.
Yeah. So some other awards that stand out. Arturo Dean walked away with 2 individual awards. He won Best Record-Breaking Performance. And again, for an FIU freshman to have the season that he had was second to none. So that makes a lot of sense. And obviously, Rookie of the Year. I mean, duh. He's probably one of the greatest rookies FIU basketball has ever had, period. Specifically in his freshman year.
And now it's his team. Now it's his team.
It's his team to lead. In his sophomore year, too, which is absolutely insane.
Just like Denver, though, I feel like it's going to be a cool transition. It's going to be difficult, but, I mean, someone has to do it. So.
Yeah.
He's the right guy for it.
And let's keep looking over the list here for some absolutely some
Sean Patterson. I think he won a sportsmanship award.
Yeah, every sport also had a sportsmanship award, and for football, it was Reggie. It was Reggie.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, very well deserved. The guy not only had a great season for FIU, but he was a leader, and he's gonna have to step up this year with Gafe and Bernadelle gone. it's going to be him and Avery Huff leading the way for the defense, and specifically, you're going to have to be a big leader when you're, especially in games where it's possible you struggle, because FIU, as good as we think they could be this year, and as much as I want to say they'll probably make a bowl game, and just like you'll say, Adrian and Jake, that they have a good chance of making the bowl game. You still have to step up in the good times and the bad, especially as a leader. And Reggie Patterson's right, got to do it, and that shows a lot of why he won that award.
Yeah, but then again, I will say that the two injuries we learned about today will really hurt FIU.
Yeah, we'll talk about those after.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a sec. The last two awards I want to quickly go over, and there's like 50 different awards here. And again, congrats to every athlete that earned a reward, or a team that earned a specific team award here. Great job. But the last two, and again, I'm not entirely sure why they did 2 awards per category, but the 2 best teams, the award winners for best team, there were 2. And again, this should come as absolutely no surprise: men's soccer and swimming and diving. I think those 2 teams have been, when you want to talk about awards and achievements, they have been the faces of FIU for years, for swimming near a decade, right?
And
near a decade for swimming and diving. And for men's soccer, obviously back-to-back conference championships. And FIU last season earning their first win in the NCAA tournament in a very long time against that crazy game against New Hampshire, which we all remember. Wild. Yeah.
Yeah, and and I will say, and I think Adrian and Jake, you guys obviously are at the school more than I have been, but you guys could probably say that's a soccer school. FIU is a soccer school right now.
No, when there's no doubt about it. And if you were to, and maybe this would be a fun project in the future, if you were to do a survey, just walk up to people on campus and just ask them that specific question: what's the best sport on campus? A good chunk is going to say men's soccer. Obviously, their stadium isn't big, but they still fill the seats up. And the team has put in consistent work.
Thanks to the $2 million donation, that stadium's definitely going to get some renovations. And when it does, that stadium's going to be packed, man.
Yeah, it already is packed, right? And
yeah. Hey, it's standing room only and everything, dude. I mean, you get a ticket just to stand there for a full game. I mean, it's a nice area. It's a nice area, but you would obviously love to see a little bit more bleachers. They have to add bleachers. I know for the conference, for the NCAA tournament, they had to add bleachers, like a whole set of bleachers, which were never there.
It's always funny seeing the process of them bringing the truck in with the bleachers and setting them up correctly. Not to mention they bring in the food trucks because they know extra students going to be there.
Good.
But yeah, we're on agreement on this. If there's any stadium that needs renovations right now, it's men's soccer, right?
And obviously. It will, and it definitely will. We spoke to Scott Carr, and we probably will have to bring him back soon. But he mentioned soccer as the main stadium to get renovations to, aside from the football locker room.
All right, so congratulations to all the award winners for the Rory Awards, and they had Rory looking dapper in that suit at the event too, like looking extra fly at the event. So
I think it's news break time, Jake.
Oh, you think it's news break time? We're 23
almost 30 minutes in.
Not?
Yeah, why the hell not?
Yeah. All right. Welcome to FIU News Break, hosted by me, your place for all things FIU athletics related and just FIU related in general. Let's start with football. A new face is joining the coaching staff coming out of the University of Miami, as DeMarcus Van Dyke is now the brand new cornerbacks coach at FIU. Van Dyke, who has no relation to Miami's current quarterback of the same name, was a defensive back for the Canes who was drafted in 2011 by the Las Vegas Raiders, at the time, of course, known as the Oakland Raiders. He was a defensive analyst last season at UM and will now serve to train FIU's secondary, a position that he was very much familiar with. Moving on to the United States Football League, the USFL, if you will. Former FIU quarterback James Morgan was announced as the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Maulers a week ago. And Morgan started his first game yesterday against the New Orleans Breakers for Pittsburgh. And while it did result in a 15-22 loss at the hand of the Breakers, Morgan is still set to lead Pittsburgh for the upcoming 2023 USFL campaign. And now for your final FIU-themed story. Following an election season that saw tremendous youth voter turnout, FIU has been designated a voter-friendly campus by the Campus Vote Project and NASPA in recognition of its institution-wide efforts to encourage students to head to the polls and make their voices heard. The selection process examined written plans put in place by colleges and universities during last year's election season to foster civic engagement and educating them on the political process. And it's now going to be a voter-friendly campus for the future. So go out and vote. And that was your look at FIU News Break. So let's get into spring football. As I'm sure we all know, the spring football game is right around the corner. It's on Saturday. I want to say 6:30 p.m. Is that correct?
Yeah. So gates will open at 5:30. Game starts at 6:30.
Alrighty then. So there's a lot of headlines, and let's just get into the big bad news of the day. Flex Joseph, as well as Amari Jones, I believe, were both suffered injuries recently, and both are expected to miss the upcoming season completely. Let's start with Flex. Again, one of the leaders of the offense, one of the most well-known FIU running backs, not just for his time here, but maybe all time for FIU football. And the fact that he's going to miss a full year, it was an ACL, I believe, and he suffered that at the practice, I believe, at the Luke Campbell Field.
Yeah, that was really bad. I was there. I saw the play. You immediately noticed something was wrong with Flex the second he got hit down. He could not get up. He was holding onto that knee, and I told myself inside, I was like, that looks like an ACL. And you kind of just thought right there, it's like, you basically thought at that point he's out. Now when it comes to what the running back room looks like, you still have transferred Shamari Lawrence from South Dakota. You will have Keyshawn Owens, who got a good amount of playing time last year. And then finally, you have Antonio Patterson, who was mainly a special teamer, but he got a couple reps out there. I think, in my opinion, the starter should be Shamari Lawrence, who put up very similar stats to Flex last year. Jake, if you want to look him up for me on ESPN, they put up very, very similar stats. Shamari barely rushed over 500 yards, got, I think, 5 touchdowns. Flex, very, very similar numbers, so that shouldn't be an issue in terms of backing up the running back. And then finally, as Jake mentioned, quarterback Amari Jones out for the year with an Achilles injury. Coach announced that today at the practice. Amari really never got any playing time. He actually hasn't played a single snap for FIU football in the regular season. So I thought he actually had a decent chance to do that this year, especially the way he had been playing in spring. He looked pretty good, showing the mobility, looked good in red zone drills. I mean, he got a significant playing time as the quarterback there for FIU. I thought he was actually going to play a good amount of the spring game, just assuming he may not get a shot at playing this in the regular season once again. But, FIU still has now down to 3 QBs. You have Grayson, Hayden Carlson, and South Florida legend, or South Dade legend, Kewan Jenkins, who will probably get a significant amount of playing time in the spring game. I wonder how that will work in terms of, you would have thought you had 2 QBs on one side, 2 on the other. Now you have 1 QB on one side, 2 on the other. So maybe you see a battle of Hayden Carlson versus Grayson James, and you have Kewan just backing up both teams. But we'll see what happens. Very huge loss there, very big loss there. I think the biggest one obviously is Flex, who, Jake, we spoke. I think we even voted in team MVP on this show. Yeah, where this guy was the heart and soul of this team, not only leadership wise, because he's a great leader. I mean, and I think he still will be. He was going to be. I believe he's still going to be with the team and everything. But now that hurts, Obviously, he'll still make an impact with leadership, but you want him on the field. Thankfully, he still keeps his year of eligibility. What I was told is he could possibly just redshirt next season just to make sure he's good to go. But you would like to obviously see him play this year, and you would like to see him just back to normal next season for what would be now his official final year next season.
Do you guys know if the spring game is going to be an actual game, or if it's going to be like what it was last season, where it was just mini practices?
So It's probably going to be a set of mini practices and then basically a scrimmage,
like a small scrimmage.
Yeah, like a small scrimmage. It's not going to be a full on fledged.
I'm gonna
actual
see.
game.
I'm gonna tell Johnny to ask coach,
Because last season it was I believe just mini practices and then like small scrimmage, two hand touch, kind of like nothing like we saw things, of players, but not so much like to your point, Kevin, what you were trying to say of like the different running backs and the quarterbacks. Like it wasn't so much that. It was more like just practice with fans.
Yeah.
At least that's what it felt like. So I don't know how much we're gonna see of the players, but it's at least it gives us.
We'll see quite a bit. Obviously, when it comes to the quarterback room, every quarterback is going to throw some snaps, some more than others, right? I as Kevin mentioned, the hometown local legend of Keon, he's probably going to get quite a bit of snaps, right? And probably more than any other.
I want to ask you,
yeah,
what do they call Q1 Jenkins? Lights out.
Lights out. Okay.
Lights out. Lights out.
Too.
That was a good one.
I had to do it. They actually do call him Lights Out. I just want to tell you that right now. That's his actual
That's
nickname.
a cool nickname.
Yeah,
too,
yeah. I was thinking in the back of my head, it's Lights Out, isn't it? What is he gonna? Oh, yeah. That's my job, Kevin. God.
I had to do it. Did you do it last show?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course I did. You think I would forget?
Yeah.
Okay. A lot that Jake did when they first signed Coach Mack was he said like, let's get ready for some football or something, and that was just a constant like soundbite that we would always just have.
Yeah, Mike McIntyre has a lot of clips of him just saying quotes, and they've become pretty much synonymous with this time here at FIU. And I don't even know how this story began anymore, of how we made the Lights Out clip pretty much our official clip of the Paws podcast.
I think I made it. I made it because when we're talking about recruitment, I think that's how we started it all.
So the spring game is upcoming, and this is pretty much time for final thoughts before we get to see them in action. Who do we think are going to be the guys, the team captains for both sides of the ball?
So assuming it's an actual game, let's go off of that first. Let's assume this is going to be a game. Man, I will say this. If there's something that the Miami Hurricanes do well, it's that spring game. That looked like a fun spring game. That was an actual game where they went to Drive Pink Stadium and they played a full-on game. That was pretty cool. But anyways, spring game is obviously a good time for young players who are new, especially the freshmen, to go out there and show off what they could do, see if they could earn some playing time in the regular season. The main players, obviously, and I wrote this on an article, which will be dropping sometime this week, maybe right the day before the spring game, besides the injury article, which should be dropping tonight. But the first, obviously, is going to be the quarterback play. How will that look like? How will we see who will be most comfortable in this offense? From what I've seen, and with many of the media members there, I've seen Eric and Jonathan and Johnny. The guy's been Grayson. He's looked the best. Not that any quarterbacks looked particularly better than the other, but no one has looked better than Grayson to the point where you could say that's going to be the starter over Grayson James. Keywan's looked good. I said overwhelmed at first, maybe a little uncomfortable in the offense, but he's kind of looked a lot better. The Charles Hadley practice went very well for him, in my opinion. Besides throwing one pick, he threw a couple touchdowns after, got very mobile player, got into the red zone, and then Caden Carlson looked really good. And the one thing that may be the defining factor with let's start Carlson at some point over Grayson would be the ability to extend plays. Carlson has some jets, man. He can move around. He's going to extend the plays, and we saw that in the final game of the season against Middle Tennessee, where he did that a lot. And although it did lead a couple times to a couple interceptions, if you just work on some mechanical stuff, you work on the offense, you obviously those would no longer would be picks. Then finally, Grayson is the guy who looks the best in the offense. He's the one who players rally behind. He's probably going to be the starter. So that's the way I see it. Then obviously the wide receiver core, no real number one right now, Jake and Adrian. The designated number one right now would be technically Chris Mitchell, who has the most playing experience. And Jake, we talked about this. If before Tyrese, there was no real number one wide receiver with FIU. It was really just spread out that ball. And you could talk a little more about that. But that is something we could also see this season if Chris Mitchell really doesn't live up to that number one hype doesn't live up to the wide receiver one hype, which Tyrese did. And then finally the offensive line, just see how that works. And then defense. They've looked pretty good so far in spring. Now, you could say they've looked good, but they've also been playing an FIU offense, which has looked pretty mediocre at times. So take that as you will. With that, the defense has looked good, but they have some real nice names. They have defensive line looks a lot better, a lot more 5-tool type. Then obviously the cornerbacks. I'm actually very excited with Van Dyke coming in to work with those guys who are going to be studs. And then finally just linebacker core looks real good with Avery Huff, Reggie Patterson. You have to be very excited what you're seeing with FIU football, and hopefully the spring game is what we think it'll be, and we'll have some fun watching that.
Yeah. Adrian, quick question for you. So you said you were at pretty much every football game last year, right?
The home games, at least, yeah.
Yeah. So you were at the spring football game last year as well, correct? I
yes.
want to say yes. So how would you say the hype for the spring football game has felt around you on campus heading into this game?
I was talking about it with Jonathan, and
shout out Johnny.
Yeah, he's watching right now. Shout out to him. He may be our only viewer right now, actually.
Multiple, so in our student union, they have a big TV area where they usually have things that they display current events, like homecoming week or this or that or whatever.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen anything yet of the spring game. And I go to class every day. I haven't seen anything of the spring game on posters or on that. So to be honest, I knew it was happening, right? But I know a lot of people commute. So a lot of people aren't super in tune with FIU Athletics unless they're into the specific sport. But even then, it's people know about the first game. People don't know about the second football game, So I feel like a lot of people might not know that it's happening. I mean, FIU Athletics is posting it and they're doing everything they can, but I haven't seen as much hype as during the regular season when they would have come to watch FIU soccer, come to watch FIU football, softball, whatever it was. I haven't seen that for the spring game yet, and I'm confused why. So I hope people go, but I also don't know how many people actually know about it. So I'm interested to find out.
That's interesting.
Because last year it was a big thing, if you remember, just because.
Yeah, it was a huge deal last year. I remember
McIntyre, everybody was new.
Yeah, I remember prior to the spring game last year, I think it was the week before, they had a sort of welcome party at the football stadium, if you will, where they pretty much introduced.
I saw the live stream.
Yeah, they live streamed it. They introduced the entirety of the new coaching staff, and I think a couple of players were there as well. And that was super fun. And obviously, the big takeaway from that party was to advertise the spring game that was the week after. I want to say that it was the week after, if my memory serves me correct. But it's a bit interesting that you're not seeing as much advertisement. For the spring game.
I just haven't.
It should be,
because last season it was such a big thing. Obviously the new athletic director, new head football coach, new everything, new dorms, Tamiami. I mean, that was the main selling point too of come watch our spring game. You could tailgate in the pavilion out in front of the dorms. Yeah. Before that, they had it in the middle of the two honors colleges, which is not an ideal area compared to this other area. So this year, I hope it's a big deal for a lot of people, but I really don't know, realistically, how many people even know about it.
And I don't like to bring up our neighbors in Coral Gables, but they always make a big deal out of their spring game as well. I believe it was a few days ago. They played it at the Drive Pink Stadium, home of Inter Miami. You look at the billboards on the turnpike as well as advertisements you just see on your phone and computer, on websites and whatnot. You see that they advertise their spring game very well. And
yeah,
I remember FIU pretty much did the same thing as last year. You went on the turnpike, you saw a billboard or two that advertised FIU football.
Yeah, and Coach Mike McIntyre and Scott Carr were doing all these interviews when they were first brought into the program of going on this news channel. So I feel like the hype was building up slowly. Even if you're just a regular student, let's say, who obviously isn't going to tune into the news at 8 a.m. to watch a football coach, but the news was slowly building up, the hype at least, to where it was like, oh, okay, I'll check this out on Saturday, and then a lot of people showed up. Like it was a lot. Like it was the most packed I've ever seen the stadium, like with students for a football, and it wasn't even a real game, which was the fun part too, because a lot of students were bummed out that it wasn't a real game, me myself included, because I thought it was first spring practice or first spring game. I thought it was going to be a game.
Yeah,
with a lot of people, and then when it wasn't, I guess people were kind of bummed, but they still stayed because it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun, and they always make it fun because you can like, I think you can actually go on the field after the game to like talk to the players and talk to the coaches and get autographs and take photos. It's super cool the way they have it.
It's going to be a fun time.
It's going to be a fun time.
Regardless of what happens, we're going to have a good time.
Yeah, hopefully it's the same thing.
And regardless of how FIU's advertising it, again, we encourage everybody. Go to the spring football game, support the team, have a fun time. It should be a lot of cool activities for everyone to do, regardless of if you're a fan, if you're a student, or if you're an alumni. It should be super fun. And hey, you can catch us there. Say hey if you want. Why the hell not? I think we're gonna be doing a little hour-long presentation, if you will, during the spring football game on FIU's Mixler, who, I mean, we've all been, Adrian, I don't know if you've been on it, but we've all have had experience with the FIU Mixler at one point or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And
somehow I have.
Yeah, Kevin somehow lodged his way into FIU Mixler history at that Miami FIU baseball
which
game.
I'm excited for, May 10th.
Yeah, the rematch is going to be sick because
the third one, right?
The third one is like May 11th, 10th,
Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. And then I think the Coral Gables one is the 16th. If I'm not mistaken.
No, Coral Gables is the 10th. FIU back at home is the 16th. Hey, you're close enough. It's fine.
By the way, one last thing about football that I found out here that I'm sure is giving this team a lot, and the Mike McIntyre a lot of motivation. ESPN recently released their football power index rankings of all 133 FBS teams, like power ranking from obviously 133 to number 1 on who they think the best teams in FBS are.
Oh, it's 133 of them? Oh,
there's 133.
I don't think you want to mention where FIU ended up.
FIU was 131.
Ooh.
131. The only teams they beat out were the New Mexico State Aggies, who are also in Conference USA, and the University of Massachusetts Minutemen, who were
Charlotte ended up higher than them.
Charlotte, let's see, the 33.
I believe once Charlotte fired their coach, though, they were popping. So
5-4. They're 122. Charlotte is.
What?
But yeah,
Charlotte
a couple of teams that are above FIU in this list. I can't go through all 100 and whatever of them, but the Akron Zips, the Louisiana, I believe that's Louisiana Monroe Warhawks, the New Mexico Lobos, the Bowling Green Falcons, the UTEP Miners, Kent State, Colorado, Texas State. All these teams are above FIU.
Where was Colorado at?
Sorry?
Where was Colorado at? I'm just curious now with everyone going there.
Colorado, as in Colorado State. Oh, wait, the Buffaloes. You mean
Deion Sanders?
I thought that's what you said. I didn't know if you said Colorado State.
Colorado is. This is kind of stupid because they don't have a list here yet. You kind of have to count it, but they're like somewhat bottom tier, somewhat middle of the pack.
Where's FAU?
Okay,
FAU's gotta be like
Florida Atlantic.
That's been the
middle. Straight middle. They're along the same lines as Coastal Carolina, North Texas, Toledo, Louisiana, and UAB. They're along that same.
I'll say this with FIU and the Conference USA, they do have a good chance to qualify for a bowl.
Yeah, because
even if it's, I don't know if this still is the Bahamas Bowl still a thing.
Yes.
Well, they could probably qualify for that one.
Is FAU still in the? They're not.
No, they left the conference. They left the conference.
Yeah.
Charlotte left, right?
So, and in case you're wondering, the highest Conference USA team on this list was Western Kentucky, who is, again, mid. Actually, they're Western Kentucky is, I think, 40 spots behind the University of Miami, who is right outside the top 25.
Well, I mean,
So yeah, Western Kentucky is the highest, followed by Liberty, who I think we no surprise Liberty is up there. They have a great program. Louisiana Tech after them, followed by Middle Tennessee, UTEP, FIU, and New Mexico State. I guess this list does not have Jacksonville State and Sam Houston State yet because they're just now moving up to FBS. They were FCS.
Yeah.
So yeah, by the way, in case you were wondering, ESPN's projected record for FIU this season is 4-8, just the same as last year. So ESPN believes FIU's record is not going to change.
I think we
4-8
said 6
again.
wins, right? Right, Jake? We said 6.
Yeah, we both said 6. And that was again, that was an optimistic idea. 6-6, get into a bowl game.
So definitely possible, by the way.
Yeah, it's great. Obviously, again, as we talked about earlier, FIU got the most improved team from going 1-11 to 4-8. If they go 6-6 and get into the bowl, they deserve to be most improved again for getting back into the college football postseason.
Yeah.
So again, maybe that's a bit of motivation. I guarantee you a lot of the players and coaches have already seen this list. They know that FIU is 131.
The one thing I want to
133.
The last thing I want to mention, this is kind of more of a news break type thing, but Dorian Hall worked out for the Miami Dolphins. So we get to see an FIU alum on the Dolphins.
We thought that was going to happen with Borregales, I want to say.
Also with Devontae Price too, we thought.
Right. They worked out with Miami.
I mean, I feel like everybody works out.
Yeah.
With your local team, right? If you're
by the way, this is the last thing I'll say for actually a couple things, because in case y'all are wondering who the highest Florida team is, it is Miami. Actually, no, I take that back. It's not Miami.
No.
The Florida Gators and Florida State are in front of them. Florida State is like, I can count this, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Florida State is number 14.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The Florida Gators are 19. 5, 26, 27, 28, 29, and Miami is number 31.
That makes sense.
I feel like 31 might be a little too high for Miami.
Possibly, yeah. They really, not to say it like that, but they kind of sucked last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, again, a lot of this
underachieved
list I'm looking at, and I'm like, right? Because the top 10, by the way, is Penn State at number 10, 9 is Notre Dame, 8 is Clemson, 7 is USC, 6 is Michigan. Number 5 is Texas, 4 LSU, 3 is Georgia, 2 Alabama, 1 Ohio State. The fact that obviously Georgia's losing Stetson Bennett, that's a big loss for them. But I mean, goddamn, they're coming off like one of the best seasons in college football history, and they're only at number 3.
I think they should flip Ohio State, because who does Ohio State have now? Who does Ohio State have?
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
No? Like,
by the way, the fact that Notre Dame and Penn State are here, despite them pretty much not doing anything last season, is kind of funny. And the fact that Tennessee is nowhere to be found too. Tennessee, who smoked Clemson in the Orange Bowl game, even though Clemson is number 8 and Tennessee is nowhere to be found in the top 10. That's weird. But yeah, a funny list. Obviously, it's not set in stone and things are going to change. There are going to be some teams that do not as good as you would think, and there are going to be teams that overachieve. We saw that last year, obviously, with TCU, who made it all the way to the championship game. So anything can happen. I think FIU is a much better than a 4-8 team. I think they've improved. They're going to be either 5-7 or what we really want to see 6-6.
And it's crazy, right? Because FIU, a team that lost Gaithan Bernadelle, their defensive leader, Tyrese Chambers, their best wide receiver. Now you lost Flex Joseph. You lost a couple offensive linemen during spring practice. I mean, you got to be. But
it's realistic. It's realistic, like,
it's realistic, and I mean, you have to give it, props to the recruiting and the amount of guys they got from the transfer portal. Shamari Lawrence. If you didn't have him, you would be having Keyshawn Owens out there, which not the ideal situation. I think Keyshawn and Antonio Patterson need to wait one more year before they really shine under that running back one light, because Shamari Lawrence is going to give you about the same production as Flex would.
And by the way, I found out one last thing about this power index. Guess what FIU's power index was last season?
They were last, I believe, right?
They were last. They were dead last.
Yeah. I remember
Yeah,
seeing
that
it,
makes
I was
sense.
like, oh, that's FIU.
Out of they were actually behind University of Massachusetts. So
Isn't last now?
Hey, progress.
it was. I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure it was the University of Massachusetts
For
was
this
dead
one, yeah.
last. Yeah,
Don't worry,
FIU
man.
was in front of.
Next
New
season they'll be in the
Mexico
top
and
120.
Yeah, FIU again 131. They're in the only teams they're in front of are Conference USA buddies New Mexico State, who FIU did beat last year, so I think that's a no doubter, and the UMass Minutemen, who for like the last 2 decades have been an awful football franchise. You can just ask FIU. They blew the brakes out of UMass one year by a score of like 60-6 or something crazy like that. So, yeah. Alrighty then. That was your look at football. And again, go to the spring game. Support the team. It's going to be a lot of fun.
We'll be there. We'll
we
be
will
there.
be
Jake
there.
and I will be
All of us
there.
will be
It's
there.
Eric Henry's final time at FIU.
Shout out to
So-
Eric Henry. He's after God, how many years has he been with the team?
6 seasons.
6. He's moving on. We don't know exactly where he's going as of right now, but of course we wish him the best of luck. Eric Henry has been on the show twice now, and
we'll definitely get his outsider's perspective of FIU
Yeah.
once he's on, but
he's
he's a great guy, and
he's a great guy. And as far as FIU athletics goes and their presence on social media, Eric Henry has played a big part of that, providing the latest scoops.
Yeah.
And so
we'll see who's next in line for that role.
He's also given me some opportunities too when it comes to just reaching out to certain websites or certain friends of his that he knows to cover other schools. He's a great person.
We wish him good luck wherever he goes next. So, Adrian, I want to talk with you about something. And again, thanks for being on the show and chilling with us, talking some FIU sports.
Of course.
I want to know how you felt the day you found out that Denver Jones was leaving basketball, because I remember when you were able to talk with Denver Jones like almost a year ago now, feels like, just talking about him, talking about the players he was with at FIU and his expectations for the upcoming season. How did you feel about that loss for men's basketball?
I mean, I kind of saw it coming. I don't know. I didn't want it to happen, but like seeing a player like that progress at the level he did. Like I remember last season when he got not this one, but the one before.
Yeah.
When he came off the bench and like he did something really good in like the last few minutes of the game, and I was like, damn, this guy's a dog, And then seeing him progress into this season after Tevin left, it was, I mean, a lot of players left, so seeing him having to be that number one guy, like we spoke about, and just seeing him actually like thrive under the pressure, I guess, not so much crack. I was like, he's special. And if he leaves, it makes sense. Like Tyrese left, and who knows really why Tyrese left, right? Because like he was the number one guy here and he was doing really good here. So was Denver, but I mean, I feel like for basketball,
they just wanted better opportunities to shine and be a star national spotlight.
Look at this.
When you go to the SEC, that's a huge upgrade. Like,
Tyrese goes back to Maryland.
Yeah.
Tyrese goes back to his home state.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't think he's really complaining. He has 1 year left. He'll probably be a late round draft pick, so he'll get a shot.
But with Denver, I mean, like, I wasn't upset. I was like bummed out, whatever. Like he's leaving a young program, but he's leaving a program that's like still young and new, and like I feel like he's already surpassed the level that FIU's at. Like FIU's great program and everything, but like if you have the opportunity to go to
a place like Auburn, and again you mentioned it, SEC. We just saw what their buddies Alabama and how great their year was and how they looked in the basketball tournament. But
like even if let's say he went to FSU, right, a team that underperformed like immensely for the whole season, I mean, it would still be huge for him to go to a school like that, just because the competition you play Duke, you play UNC, Miami, who went to the Final Four. And now he's going to the SEC where you play the Gators, you know.
Though to be fair, Denver Jones, he played some competition. Oh, I think he played at a Final Four team in FAU. Granted, nobody had any vision that FAU was going to be as monster a team as they were.
Those guys are going to continue to be a powerhouse too. I mean, they're losing a good amount of players. John L. Davis, I believe, is gone. A couple other guys are going to the draft, but they're still going to be a good team.
Mm-hmm. And Dusty May,
or maybe they're just back to what they were a couple of years ago. You know,
we'll see. But I mean, I think Dusty May is a great coach. He got that 10-year deal to stay at FAU.
10 years.
Yeah, 10-year deal.
You got the Wayne Gretzky.
And they're going to that new conference. They're going to the American, the AAC. So
that's gonna be fun too. Like I'm
excited. That's a completely new conference.
No, the AAC has been around for a while.
AAC, yeah. Okay.
With the South Florida Cincinnati,
the American Athletic Conference, right?
Yeah, Dusty May was at the Marlins game the other day. Threw out the first.
Yeah, I saw they threw out the first pitch. Thank God I didn't go to that game.
I was a waste of time.
I went to.
It was a good time. I was with a certain someone, which I will not mention.
At the Marlins game, they were advertising the FAU Final Four, and I was like, good for them. Like, I mean, I know I go to FAU, but like, it's just funny seeing a team like that's in your conference just do so good. And I was like, you know, that's incredible.
And FIU made money off of it, so
yeah, and FAU didn't, which is super funny. Yeah. The money they made for the conference, their share is they're not getting because they're leaving the conference.
The popularity is enough. I'm sure.
Yeah, they're gonna generate so much off of that. I mean,
yeah, like the players that would want to go now like the players that I guess didn't really consider it because it's a smaller school. Now might consider it.
But at the same time, I feel like what we saw in the Final Four kind of hurts the basketball team as FIU specifically because now if a high school basketball player wants to play in the state of Florida, he's going to look to either the two big dogs, the Canes or the Owls. FIU is kind of left in the dust, if you will. I mean, obviously, it's evident that Florida talent is abundant, right? It's
I'm going to share some good news, and I'll find it now. But FIU did just get a pretty big, I guess, commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And Jonathan was the one who broke the news. Jonathan Mayer. I'll find it right here. His name is. I don't even want to say the name because I don't even know how to say it. Okay, Chukwu Okiki.
Hang on. Share put your phone up to the screen so we can see this. Okay, that was a bad idea. I can't see.
That was a really bad idea. Yeah. Well, we'll just say average 8.9 points per game, 6 rebounds, 1.2 blocks per game. Led all of JUCO in games played. Second team all Panhandle Conference. Was part of a TCC squad that went 31-6 in 2022-2023.
Wow!
So nice addition. Nice addition for FIU.
He's from Florida. He's just coming a few hours down.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So I mean, it shows that FIU still makes some moves with recruitment and transfer portal and all that stuff. And Johnny has always been
season too. You know, we got Arturo Zine. They got I forget his first name.
Deshaun Giddens was a commitment, right?
John Williams, right? From the NC from Division 2.
Corey Brewer. Yeah, they got some guys.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. Let's start to wrap up here. Kevin, do you have any motivation to talk about FIU baseball?
They've been not really. They got swept. They're playing tomorrow against FGCU.
That's the makeup game, right? They're making that up.
I believe that's a makeup game. Johnny, if you're into chat, Johnny, please let me know.
But Johnny, I have the schedule right here. Adrian.
He's gonna be it's gonna be a very difficult week for FIU baseball. I mean,
no doubt.
You're playing ranked FGCU and then you're playing ranked UTSA. So
UTSA
doesn't get much easier for you. Jake and I will be there for maybe an inning or two on Saturday before the football game because it's literally a walk from one stadium to another, which is something great about FIU. I want to say. Mm-hmm. Something that FIU beats a lot of schools out on when you have each stadium literally a walking distance to.
Yeah, and like the soccer and basketball arenas again, pretty damn close by.
It's literally right next to each other, and you can still walk from football over to football practice
Like
facility.
if you wanted to go from the tennis courts, which I think are the furthest thing away from the football stadium, that's still only like a 7-8 minute walk.
Exactly.
most.
So Jake and I will be there for, I guess, the start of the game, unless Jake and I split duties and he goes over to football for a while. But Johnny will be there. He's going to call the first couple of innings. So if you guys want to listen to that on FIU Mixler, so
sounds good.
It's going to be a fun weekend. A fun weekend of FIU sports.
Super fun.
They actually promoted that. They call it Super Spring Saturday.
Yes.
That's going to be fun.
I did see that. Yes.
Softball at 1, baseball at 4, FIU football, which I'm super pumped for, at 6:30.
Yeah. So
I feel like everyone's just excited to get back in football mode.
Yeah, I mean, and again, this is people's last chance to get back into football before the team takes a break and gets ready for the first
summer
game against
workouts. You have summer workouts.
Yeah, you have the workouts, but as
Yeah,
far as like,
I don't know if they. I remember like last time I tried talking to them about it, they said it just depends what the NCAA says.
By the way, this just came to me. FIU did announce obviously the brand new Vice uniforms. What if we saw them for the first time at this spring game?
They didn't announce them, right?
They announced that they were gonna make them, right? That it's gonna be a thing.
When did they announce
when they would debut it? But I think the spring game would be the perfect time to do that.
Did they do that last spring game for the new uniforms?
Yeah, they wore the new uniforms.
Okay, well then maybe there's a chance.
Yeah,
FIU, something that I love it. They always change their field to a different look. So
yeah,
well they said
that's going to continue too,
which is huge.
Yeah,
it's going to get people going.
Mm-hmm.
The Vice
it literally the Vice field made it to ESPN.
Yeah,
it was everywhere.
It was cool. It was super.
And they're doing it again, which is the best part. And that was probably the coolest field I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
Besides like Boise State's blue field, which is cool, but FIU does it right.
Boise State's blue field is iconic, right? But it's iconic, but that does that make it good? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the non-green football.
It doesn't make it good, but it makes it iconic.
Yeah, like what's the other school? East Carolina, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have their turquoise one, their teal.
And I know I forget what team it is, but there's an all red field as well. I forget which.
That's ugly.
Yeah, like I don't know. Maybe this is a traditionalist feeling, but if it's not natural green, it's just off. I think the NFL did it right when a couple of years ago they officially abolished any field that's not green. So
did they have a field that wasn't green?
No, never. But they didn't want anyone to come up with some funny ideas and do that. So yeah.
Shout out to
the Raiders.
Sorry, what did you say, Kevin?
I was gonna say shout out to Jay Ajayi, Boise State legend.
Wow, that's a blast from the past. Holy cow, Kevin.
Hey, Super Bowl winner, right? At the Eagles.
Yeah, he was on that Eagles squad. Yes,
he was on the Dolphins, but like.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's how I remember Jay being on the Dolphins for the.
I remember they did.
He had that one really great like breakout year, and then after that, not really anything.
I remember when they traded him out. I was pissed.
Let's just say that our running game has definitely improved overall since then. Yeah. You got Raheem, you have what's his name, Jeff Wilson, and you might have Dalvin Cook.
If they bring Dalvin Cook, the Dolphins are a Super Bowl favorite.
Look, I still have my issues with the Dolphins, mainly being their what are they going to do for tight ends and what are they going to do for their offensive line to improve those two things. But like everything else, I feel great about.
I would have loved Dalton Schultz on the Dolphins.
That would be cool.
That would have been cool.
This is like the first year in a very long time where I feel completely confident in the defense. The defense, I have no worries.
Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard, Javon Holland. And imagine if they try to make a move for Budda Baker, who requested a trade.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think it'll happen, but man, that would be cool. That would be
cool. I think the rumors are Budda's probably going to Philly.
I've heard that.
Comments he said.
Well, did Darius Slay? Didn't he try to leave Philly or something like that?
They released him actually, or I think they did. They end up releasing him.
I think so.
They released him and he re-signed.
Yeah.
That's all right. So I think we could wrap it up. Jay.
Yeah,
we're over the hour mark.
Let me do my duty and announce what's coming up next, aside from football, and of course that obviously is baseball and softball. So baseball, 14-22 record. That's fun. They're taking on the Florida Gulf Coast Eagles tomorrow here at the FIU Baseball Stadium.
Jake may be there, so shout out to Jake.
They are again hosting UTSA this weekend. First game on Friday at 6:30, and then moving on to Sunday at noon. Then they're heading to Boca to take on FAU the week after.
We may be there on Friday.
We may be there, yeah. Softball. Softball is 18-22. They are coming off a tough stretch where they were swept by FAU and then lost a single game to UCF. But they're over in Jacksonville this Wednesday taking on North Florida, the Ospreys, I believe, at 2 p.m. Then they're back home for 6 straight games against Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky. Those last 6 games are the last 6 games of the regular season for softball at home. They finished the regular season on the road against UTEP in early May. So the next home game coming up is on Friday, April the 21st at 6 p.m. against the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders. Alrighty, Adrian. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like the world to know about FIU athletics or just your work in general? Go for it right now.
I'm just excited for what's coming up. I'm excited for soccer, like just next semester sports in general. Like it's a whole big question mark. What's going to happen with soccer? What's going to happen with football, basketball? Like, I'm just excited. Like, college sports is so much fun. It's always ever changing. So, I'm excited to see what's happening.
That sounded like a Scott Carr quote, Adrian. I'm just gonna say that sounds like that was a verbatim something that Scott Carr would say. But yeah, I agree with you. A lot of storylines, a lot of teams that have had success trying to keep the consistency, and teams like football that are trying to go further beyond. Yeah. So again, Kevin, any final thoughts? If you want to talk about the Marlins for some reason, now would be the time.
They're winning 4-2. Jazz Chisholm hit a 3-run bomb. Edward Cabrera looks good. So
I was on the turnpike and I was listening to the radio. They were down 2-0. But yeah, okay, that's cool.
And the jumbo shrimp are up, so I'm not complaining.
Jumbo shrimp.
So,
all right, everybody. I speak for myself, my good friend and co-host Kevin Barral, and our wonderful guest Adrian Valdivia when I say so long and pause up.